I'm really trying to think about what it looks like to have a purpose outside of just the money side of things. And I honestly don't know what that is yet. I've been thinking about other things that I could do. I've thought about if I were to sell the company or exit the company in some way.
We know the book answer. The book answer is you're supposed to help people and volunteer and build something for the next generation. And we know that's true, but it's not that simple.
All right, so here's something I've been thinking about. When you're starting a business, there's no confusion about your purpose. It's to make money, create stability, and take care of your family. But then one day you kind of get there. You've created that stability, you've created that foundation, and suddenly the thing that was pushing you forward, it disappears. And that's what we're figuring out here on the other side of enough. I'm sitting down with entrepreneurs who have hit their goals, but they're still searching for something more. We're talking about what business excellence really looks like on the other side. Let's get into it.
It is the cream of the crop from Navy officers. He was selected to be a nuclear submarine officer, and he did all kinds of shady things, sailing. Do you sail underneath the water? Is that a thing?
I guess you would call it sailing, sort of. I mean, you're not literally sailing because sailing obviously requires the wind. You're under nuclear power. Propelling maybe is more accurate.
Did you guys propel near like foreign countries that don't?
So I can honestly say no, because I don't even have to like hide behind some that's top secret type of information. No, I was on a ballistic missile sub. So the subs that have all the nuclear weapons on board.
Was that the Ohio class?
The Ohio class, that's right, Kevin. Look at your submarine knowledge.
I'm pretty into the nuclears.
Yeah, so I was on the USS Maine, SSBN 741, and we poke a lot of holes in the ocean. But the whole idea, obviously, is nuclear deterrence, and so you just want to be hidden. You want to be totally away from everybody and everything in the middle of nowhere. So no, we never got close to any country.
Did you guys ever sail in the Arctic and you had to like break through the ice?
No, the Ohio class actually does not have the capability to break through the ice. Like the sail isn't built to break through the ice. The sail being like the thing that comes out of the
pointy
front.
Thing.
The point, the thing that comes out of the top of the submarine.
The thing where you throw grenades down if you're gonna storm a sub.
Yes. We totally did. We definitely ran exercises though. Propel borders and different things like that in case people came into the sub while it was in dry dock, or while it was like getting nuclear missiles swapped out. We had this building called. Go ahead.
Did you have small arms like pistols and rifles with ammo?
Yep, and we would do
That's cool.
exercises underway. It was always like everybody gets called to do these you had to run these drills, and you have to go and get like the dummy guns and like the dummy body armor, or real body armor, but dummy guns, and and somebody is designated to be, or a team or designated to be like the bad guys. And the trick was, especially if you were getting off of like a long shift or something, is just to kind of go near where your rack is, get killed, and then just have to kind of
and then just lay down.
Yeah.
Shucks, got shot in the first
You got
2
me.
minutes.
Yeah, bummer.
I was attached to Delta Force for a few months, and I was like their cannon fodder, so I was always the bad guy. Like you have to wait like 3 hours for them to come because you're not supposed to know when they're going to breach. So they put on these plywood doors, and the doors are supposed to get blown up. So you're in this building that was specifically built as like a shoot house. And so you're waiting there. And I was the machine gunner. So I had my rifle, and I'm sitting in this little bunker inside the building. And you hear like footsteps outside, and then hear all these explosions. And then it's exciting, but also kind of terrifying because like the best in the world are coming to kick your ass, right? And so I hear them in the hall. So I can't see anything. I just go full out. I'm shooting. And then they threw, I guess it's called a 9-banger. It's like a flashbang, but it bangs 9 times, right? So they threw it at me. I think I have hearing loss from it. And I decided, I'm like, okay, I'm probably dead. Like they shot me so many times. And then I looked later and I had paint marks on my knuckles because they're so good they can shoot your hand. Like they shoot your hand to make you drop the rifle. But then there was a different team that came behind me, and they saw me sitting there, and they thought I was not playing dead. They thought I was like still in the. They thought I surrendered, right? And so they like throw me against the rail. They like put my hands behind my back. They're being all rough, and I'm like, guys, I'm dead. And then they're like, they got really nice, and they're like, oh, sorry, and then they move on, keep clearing the rooms. But fun times. So Justin, we interrupted you. You're telling us about your submarine stuff.
Well, I was just saying, there's this place. So I was stationed in Washington on the Bangor Washington sub base on the Hood Canal, and there's this building called EHW, which is called the Explosives Handling Warehouse, basically. And it's like this giant tent type building where you pull the sub in, and that's where all like the nuclear missile stuff happens. And there was a large complement of Marines obviously guarding and protecting that area. So there were multiple times, because sometimes they like shut down topside. So you're in the submarine, you're working as a submarine officer, or submarine or whatever, so whoever it is on the submarine, you're there working, and then all of a sudden topside is shut down, and there's some guys get like caught like walking from the parking lot, which is so far away, down to the ship, and the Marines do not mess around. They're like, get on the ground. Yep. Like, you're like, hey, there's like this E3 or E4, whatever. You're, an O3 or even the commander, like you just stop and like get down on the ground because they had everything shut down if you're caught in the wrong spot at the wrong time. It was really interesting. Thanks. We had the START treaty, I don't remember what it's called, one of those nuclear treaties with Russia. We had that were signed. So when I was in the Navy, we had to do inspections, or they came to us to do inspections. And so all these kind of Russian diplomats would come on this bus, and they'd come down and we'd shut it down, and they'd like inspect the nuclear missiles on the submarine. They'd like open up the top, like look inside, see how many warheads were there, whatever it was they had to do. It was really interesting. I talked to some guys that did that on behalf of the U.S., like going to Russia and doing the same thing for their nuclear weapons. And they were like, the guys that come from Russia that come here, it's like an incredible holiday. They're buying like Levi's jeans and going shopping and like stocking up and like staying in like nice hotels and like all this food. It's like, when we go to Russia, we're just trying to make sure like no like warlord's going to steal the nukes. Like, are they like at least safe behind some sort of protection? Like, I don't know. It just seemed like a very different. Yeah. It's just a little different.
Or just being paranoid about like them getting you drunk and bribing you or something.
Yeah, no, I never had any interaction with them.
So Justin, did you have to go to nuclear propulsion school?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So I commissioned.
That's like
it was cool. It was
like
fun.
Super hard, right? That's like
I was like in school, I was a good student, but I was one of those people that didn't have to try particularly hard to make really good grades. Okay. And like same thing through college. Did chemical engineering. Was the guy that like just kind of didn't go to class and would study and cram and then do decent, like do pretty well. And then when I got to the Navy and I commissioned in OCS and then I went to nuclear power school, that was like your job. So like I had to be there for 10 hours a day, and there's no phones, there's nothing. It's just like you're in class and then you're studying and you have to be there for a certain amount of time. So I started actually like taking studying seriously. And right at the beginning, I didn't know this before I went, but when I went there, there's a tradition that whoever gets the highest grade on a test brings donuts the next day for everybody else. And there's like 15 tests or 20, I don't know how many tests there are over the period of power school. And so the first test I did really well. I think I had the second highest grade. There was like 86 or so people had the second highest grade. And the guy who got the highest grade was like just gloated and just like rubbed it in. And I'm a pretty competitive person. So I made it my mission to never, ever let that guy beat me on a test again. And I scored the highest grade on every other test except for one, and left as the top student in power school and spent a ton of money on donuts. But it was totally worth it because I wiped the smile right off that guy's face, and he never came close again.
Were you getting that per diem?
That was, I mean, it was like a short tour type thing. It was like, it's not really a short tour, but a training command. So I wasn't getting a per diem or anything like that. It was just your normal BAS that you normally get when you're in the Navy.
We got per diem like our first few months in, and it like doubled your paycheck almost as a lieutenant.
Yeah, there were very few people. Or very
breaks
few,
your brain.
I don't think I ever got per. The only time I had per diem, there was a couple of different, like a few day period for different tests or different things. I had to fly to DC for this like engineer exam thing. I got per diem for that, but I didn't have very many per diem things.
Well, so we did the intro. Justin, actually, we didn't touch on your business. So let's talk a little bit about your business. And then Kevin, I want to give you a chance to talk briefly about your business, and then we'll jump into some questions.
Yeah.
Sweet. What do you want to know?
Well, let's talk about your land development stuff.
Cool. I mean, I don't, the audience is probably a mix of land investors and then
half land,
other people.
half entrepreneurs. Yeah.
So,
well, all entrepreneurs, but half of them are land. I'm thinking half the other, the other 99% of industries you can be in.
Like most people who start businesses, I'm very motivated by like my performance dictating my pay, like how well I do dictating my pay. So when I got out of the Navy, I worked for ExxonMobil, and it was a great job. Objectively, great job. It's kind of like, what do you do if you're from Houston and you get a chemical engineering or petroleum engineering or whatever degree? You go work for a big oil company. After 5 years of like relatively small pay raises and recognizing that no matter how much time and energy and effort you put in, you're only going to get some small pay raise and maybe eventually some stock options that vest after some period of time that kind of give you that golden handcuffs where $100,000, but you get it in 3 years, and like the next year another 60, and you get it in 3 years later, that kind of thing. I just got really frustrated with that. And so, I mean, that's like the first primary reason why I wanted to start a business, was just to be able to put my efforts into something that didn't necessarily have a limit on the upside. Now, there's probably like a theoretical limit of like a land flipping and land development business upside, but not really. I mean, you could scale it to whatever you want it to be. It's just, you have to change what types of deals you're doing to really, really scale it.
Right.
So I started like everybody did, taking a course. I worked with Clint Turner and did the, what was it? What's this thing called?
I forget. I've been through 6 courses.
Yeah. Bleep the delay out. God, what's this course called? I don't know. Why am I blanking on it?
I can't remember either.
Learn.land.
Learn.land. Okay, bleep all that out. Learn.land. So I did Learn.land and just kind of like went all in. I was still working for Exxon full time, sending mail. And back then, 2020, this is 2021, mail performed really well. It dropped off pretty quickly in 2022. But, I knew that I had a lot going on, and I just couldn't do every aspect of the business. Scaling, hiring employees, bringing people on to start actually marketing, negotiating with sellers, selling property, managing transactions was pretty intuitive. It was like, I need people to do these things because I can't scale up and do significant transaction volume without this team of people. And then end of 2022, I started doing subdivides. I got in with the Casual Fridays REI guys, Justin and Adam Southey, did their master class. And that was more of like the network and, somebody more experienced looking over your shoulder, evaluating your deals with you, co-investing, giving you the confidence to do bigger deals. And then from 2023 till now, it's just been continuing to scale up the team, flips and a lot of more subdivides, mostly exempt and minor, but now we're doing a lot more major subdivisions, like full-on approvals, roads, power, etc.
And one thing that impresses me about you, Justin, is that I want to say it's natural. You're naturally a very good leader, and you run your team like a well-oiled machine. And so that was very impressive. I was trying to think of a Navy metaphor.
Yeah, I don't run it quite like a nuclear submarine. I think there's some things you can get away with, as a leader in the military that you can't get away with as a leader in a private company. People have way more options when they're working for a private company and they're not.
That's true. If you try to quit the military, you go to jail.
You can't. Yeah, you can't quit. You can't quit the military once you sign your contract. So I don't really quite like that.
I met you at Clint's conference in October of 2022, and I think at that point you had been doing land for about a year. Yeah, and that's right. I had been doing it for about 2 years, and I remember being very impressed because you and I were both at the exact same point in terms of revenue, but you had only spent a year doing it and I had spent twice the amount of time. So I was like, this guy is one to follow. He learns quick, he scales quick. And so I've been following you ever since. I'm just happy that you're joining us today. Kevin, let's talk about Pebble a little bit. So I guess talk through kind of how you came up with the idea, talk through what Pebble is now, and kind of give a good summary of it. And don't be humble, because I know you're a humble guy.
So yeah, I in 2019 I was living in Korea, and I've been doing software my whole career, so that's kind of my bread and butter. I've been a consultant and worked for a few companies, and at the time I was doing freelance stuff. My son had just been born, so I was trying to stay at home as much as possible, and so I was freelancing from home. And for different reasons, sort of a similar thing, I didn't want to spend the rest of my life trading my time for money. And so I figured the best way to get out of that hamster wheel was to get myself involved in real estate in some capacity. But then I had to figure out how to do that while living outside of the country. And so looked into a few different ideas, spent some time researching single family rentals, and sort of was a little freaked out about doing that internationally. And then stumbled across a podcast of somebody talking about land, and it really piqued my interest, because I was like, well, this is, you know what, there's nothing that this person is doing couldn't be done over a phone or remotely. So I jumped on the bandwagon in 2019, bought my first property, 2018, 2019, and it worked, and made a pretty good profit on that first deal. And I was like, it was like somebody lit a fire. I was just super, super excited, and then just like kept building and building. And within 2 or 3 months, like started getting inundated with just all of the stuff that has to be done. The follow-up and the tracking leads and managing the due diligence and figuring out where everything was going to go. And so being a software guy, I tried out a bunch of different products, from the more generic CRMs like HubSpot and Pipedrive to the more land-specific ones that were out there. And at the time, 2020, anything that was land-specific was like really non-existent. And all of those generic CRMs just really didn't handle the land business model well. Like that whole two-sided transaction of a purchase and a sale just still isn't really supported well by most CRMs. And so I just built something myself, and at first I had no intention of ever selling it to anybody. It was just, I need something that needs to do like these 5 things. It needs to track my mailing campaigns. It needs to handle these like 5 pieces of due diligence that I need to do. And that was it. And like it had one user. It was like everything was just hard coded to my name and my business. But after 2 or 3 months, I had this thing that was like pretty much managing my whole process. And I was in a group of other land investors, and somebody was posted on there asking like, what the heck's CRM are you guys using? Because everything I've tried is terrible. And so I just posted this little video of this thing that I had built, and that sparked this huge buzz on the forum, where everybody was like, oh my gosh, what is this? How can I get a hold of this? And that's when Jesse, my partner, who was running REI Conversion at the time, which was like a website builder for land investors, he reached out to me and was like, hey, I think with my websites thing plus this backend CRM research transaction tool, we could build a pretty compelling product. So we did that in 2020, and we sort of built it as a side project. And we told ourselves, we launched in August of 2020, and we said, if we can pay ourselves a salary by Christmas, we'll keep going, and if not, we'll just shut it down and go back to our day jobs. And I think by October we were fully profitable. We're paying ourselves a salary, and so we were like, all right, let's go all in and do this. And so now we've got.
And now Pebble is the gold standard. I mean, this is the software in the space.
We like to think so.
So
yeah.
I've used Pebble for a few years. Justin, do you guys use Pebble? Justin, I think you muted.
Yeah, no, we're not Pebble users. I used REI Conversion, right? Was that?
Yep.
That was what it was. I used REI Conversion websites when I first started my land business, but I ended up going down the Pipedrive, which was okay. It didn't work great, and then I switched to like a custom Notion CRM.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And so that's what we kind of have gone to.
Yeah.
But
those are sort of your options. It's like build something custom or use something. If you're not somebody who's into doing that, then
and it's been like it's been a huge amount of work. I have a half-time Notion developer that I pay that just keeps adding stuff for me, Wow. But it's expensive, obviously. There's like different. I feel like everybody I've talked to that uses Pebble like really likes it. I think it does a really good job. And you guys have, I think one of the things you guys have done that I've been really impressed with is taken features from other like really good CRMs and implemented them, like Follow Up Boss, a lot of like the follow up capability. I know that's something over the last couple of years you guys have implemented that's made, I think, a lot of people really enjoy Pebble. Yeah, so that's the hardest part. Like one of the hardest parts of, just managing data or managing transactions or pipelines. There's a lot of software that does that type of stuff, but to do it all in one, that's where, and like managing phone calls and communications all in one, that's where it gets really powerful.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it's really hard to build that. So it's been something we've been able to set ourselves apart from some of the competition because it's not something that everybody can do.
Well, hey, let's get into the meat and potatoes of why we're here.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to have an intro before the actual podcast starts, and I think the intro is going to basically describe kind of this season that you hit after you've scaled, and it's an interesting season because we've all made more money than what we need, and it actually creates new mindset issues to work through. Because when you start your business, I'm assuming for you guys, it was definitely for me, when you start your business, your purpose is just to create stable financial future for your family. It's like very, very simple, very wholesome, very selfish at the same time. It's just, hey, I just want to make as much as my W-2 or more and not worry about like paying my bills for the next few months, right? And so, for most of us, that took a couple years to get through that season. But then one day you wake up and you realize, I could probably retire in a low-cost country right now. Like, I could move to another country and not work the rest of my life, right? And then 6 months later, you're like, I could probably retire in rural Missouri, right? And so eventually you realize that you don't really need to work as hard as you're working. So then it brings through all these questions. Why am I working so hard, right? Why am I missing my kids? Like I probably travel 7 days out of every 30 days for this business, right? And so it brings up questions. Why am I traveling so much? Why am I missing part of my kid's childhood? And then you take your foot off the gas, right? You go through a season, you kind of ease up, and then you get really bored. And you're like, okay, I'm bored out of my mind. I can only watch my kids ride their bikes in the driveway for, a certain period of time before I get bored. So then you're like, okay, I just ping pong between these two extremes where I'm understimulated or feeling way too busy. And then you wonder, like, is anyone else going through this, right? Because it's definitely a first world problem. Like, it's like early midlife crisis for successful people, right? And it feels elitist to talk about it, where it's almost like we're not allowed to complain by having too much free time, too much money, and just not knowing what to do with this extra time, right? So have you guys gone through that? Are you in that season? And then we'll get into some questions.
Yeah. I was just thinking about this the other day that, when you were a kid and like you thought about what it would be like to be an adult. And I remember having some thought that if I could ever make like $50,000 in a year, I would what would I even do with that much money? Like I would be living like a king, and I would have nothing to how could I ever complain about anything if I made $50,000 in 1 year? And then you get there and you just get on the hedonic treadmill of
right.
well, this is great. I feel like, I could pay my bills, I can eat, but boy, if I could hit that 100K mark, I'd be set and I'd have nothing to complain about. And then you get there and you're like, man, if I could just get to that next step, and it just sort of keeps going. And I've also gotten to that point now where I wouldn't say I'm at the point where I could just quit forever and be totally fine, but I can see that coming
on the horizon.
Yeah, I know that that's going to be here in a few years. And now I'm starting to think well, is this just going to be another one of those goalposts that you pass and you don't even think about it and you just keep going? And so now I'm really trying to think about what it looks like to have a purpose outside of just the money side of things. And I honestly don't know what that is yet. I've been thinking about other things that I could do. I've thought about, if I were to sell the company or exit the company in some way.
Well, we know the book answer. The book answer is you're supposed to help people and volunteer and build something for the next generation. And we know that that's true, but it's not that simple, right?
Yeah. And sometimes those things, while they might be spiritually fulfilling. They might not be intellectually fulfilling. And that's what I worry about too, is that I want to be able to do something that is as intellectually stimulating as running a business, which as you two know is very like high intensity, intellectually stimulating. Yeah, so there's a lot of things to think about on that.
Yeah.
I love it. Justin, what do you think? Are you in that season? Justin, you're just running so fast. You might have not gotten bored yet.
I'm not. Yeah, no. I think so you know how like you could take like a strengths test and I don't know, some sort of personality strengths test, whatever it is. And I've taken a few of those over time. And the one that always I like rank incredibly high in, either it's like desire for this type of like work or like a strength is the tactical like firefighting, like the dealing with like hard problems in a very fast paced kind of environment. That was true in the Navy. It was true when I was at Exxon. That was always one of like the strengths that my managers highlighted. And it's certainly a skill that served me well in business. And I just have found that I get bored really, really easily. Like if I don't have huge commitments or like lots of things to do and think about or problems to solve, then the worst parts of me come out. Or like the worst, like I will find things to fill my time that are just totally not valuable at all in my life. And so I just try not to slow down, I think, so I'm in a stage where from a cash perspective, I could not retire right now. If I fired my whole team and sold my inventory, well then yeah, I could retire and never work again. But
that's what I mean is if you liquidated everything, you lived frugally. That's what I mean. I don't mean like with your current burn rate.
Yeah. Obviously the current burn rate is high with a big team, but what I've tried to do is just keep moving into different challenges and like starting different or bringing in other land niche verticals or real estate verticals or thinking about some other thing that I can do. And so it's been, at least the business has been an evolution of hiring out the pieces that I don't want and managing teams to manage those pieces that I don't want to do, filling my time with something new and more challenging, and then hiring people to manage that piece of it, then filling my time with something new and more challenging. And I don't know where it ends. I've been asked this question before, and I was having a conversation with another friend literally this weekend of like, what's your number? Like, what do you need to get to feel like you're done? And
I think it's when you stop having fun.
Yeah. And I think that's true. And so, for the longest time before starting this business, especially when I was working, W-2 job for Exxon, and it was a grind. I mean, it was a lot of work, and you show up at 7 and you leave at 5, and you do it again the next day and the next day and the next day, and you're in a supervisory position and you're working in manufacturing plants. You get calls on the weekends and holidays, and it's just like the same as kind of the Navy, right? In the Navy, you never are off. Maybe you take a vacation, but if you own a division or a piece of equipment or whatever, and something happens, like they're giving you a call. Like it never stops. Being a business owner obviously is exactly the same. Like it never stops. You're going to get calls whenever you need to make calls. But when I was working at W-2, I always felt like I want to fire. I want to be financially independent, retire early, right? That's what I want. And then I thought to myself, well, what do I want to do when I'm retired early? Like, what does that look like? Does that look like I can live on a sailboat with my family and just kind of bebop around? Does it look like, we have a nice home somewhere in the mountains and we just kind of go on walks every day? Like, what does it actually look like to
Right. You'd go crazy. You'd be bored.
Yeah. And what I kind of have arrived on is that what it really means to me is having control over what I work on and when I work on it. And that's exactly what I've been able to achieve in the business. Is like I only need to work on the things that I want to work on, and I do them when I want to do them. And so when things come up, like, hey, we can go on this trip with our friends or our family, and we can just take the kids and go. Like that is huge. We can do that. And honestly, until really right now, my wife has worked for Chevron, they're a big oil and gas company, for our entire marriage. And when is this podcast get published?
Whenever.
Okay.
Probably in a few weeks.
I'm sure nobody at Chevron's gonna. So Chevron is offering a severance package. They're doing 20% layoffs, and she was about to leave work kind of before we had our third kid last January, so over a year ago now, and she took off a year, and for the last year, it was amazing. I mean, we went to Europe this summer for 6 weeks and just traveled around with our kids and rented a car and like stayed in all these awesome places. And, my daughter started public school, which obviously ties us to a place. And my wife is back at work, which really ties us to a place. And so now, even though I have all these benefits of being able to work from wherever and go wherever, we don't as a family. And so now we're trying to get back to that. So my wife has made the decision to push the button and, volunteer to be laid off, which will be fantastic. And then we're taking my daughter out of public school and putting her into a Christian private school, like a homeschool co-op. It's a classical school is what it's called.
Okay.
So she'll have 2 days of school a week, and the rest will be at home. But if you miss school, it's okay. You can miss school as long as you're teaching your kids those lesson plans when you're gone. So we'll have a whole lot more flexibility to travel and kind of do the things that we want to do whenever that happens. And so, kind of to circle back, I feel like I've achieved now what I wanted to achieve when I was working the W-2, which is independence over my time, the ability to do and work on what I want to do, work on when I want to work on it, and then obviously make enough money to support that lifestyle. That's not to say it doesn't come with immense stress every once in a while. As you guys know, with real estate, it's a cyclical business, and there's times where like all the cash flow lines up and you're like, oh yeah, but then you go into a couple deals and a couple sales slip, and then you're like, you go back and forth. I'm a little too probably risk forward of a person, where I will go for if there's money to be made, like good money on the deal, and I have a high conviction, like I'm going to make it happen, even if it means. Right. And I think, Drew, you're really similar. Like even if it means your bank account gets down real low, you get a little uncomfortable there, I still typically am going after that deal. So I guess the next milestone for me would be a significant liquidity cushion that I agree with my wife that I won't touch. That might be the next step. I don't think
that's ever going to happen, Justin.
We know that's never happening for you, Drew.
Yeah, it's true. Definitely not going to happen for Drew. It may happen for me. My wife really desires that, so I may actually do it this next year or two.
I was at a mastermind last year in Puerto Rico, and some of the guys were like, Drew, I think you keep your cushion a little too low. And they're like, what is it at right now? And I'm like, $37. And at that point, I had like 7 figures worth of cash deployed, and I had 37 in my account. Just because it doesn't make any sense to keep it. Like, I know the cash is in other people's accounts, and I can access it anytime I want. And I haven't had to do that yet, but I know I can make some uncomfortable calls and like get money in a pinch if I need. So that's why I keep the cash balance low. But going back to you, Justin, it sounds like you haven't hit like a season of boredom. So I've hit a season of boredom in both my businesses because both of them kind of hit glass ceilings in a way where they were in a sweet spot and growing them didn't. To grow them by 50% more, it was 100% more effort. So I kind of just left them as they were. So then you kind of hit this season of boredom. Sounds like the way you've designed your business, and maybe the same for you, Kevin, is you guys haven't really hit a glass ceiling yet. Or if you have, you've just pushed through without really thinking about it. Does that kind of feel right?
Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, we're in an interesting spot. I mean, we're a bit of a different business because we're software and not so much land. And the beauty of software is you can scale it theoretically infinitely. So we're trying to do that. But you run into these with each sort of rung on the ladder in software requires a different type of company. So whereas maybe 2 years ago, Jesse and I could do most of the work ourselves, we've had to, shift things to where we have a full development team and we have a full marketing and sales team. And so Jesse and I can focus on those other parts of the business. We've come back to this conversation a few times of like, far do we want to get? Because there is this formula in the software world where we could open ourselves up for investment and we could take on $10 million of investment. Right. And we could go hire a ton of people and we could spend a ton of money on ads and we could like crank this thing up to 11. And every VC in the world will tell you that's what you should do. But with that you take another step on the ladder and you become a whole different company, and your stress and time and energy is
right.
Be in a whole different ballpark. And I don't know if I want to do that. And so we're sort of intentionally not doing that right now, and we're just scaling while retaining full.
You're just letting it grow naturally.
Yeah. And so far that's been a good path for us. But I would like to get to a point where I can have that cushion where I don't have to think about anything. But I also want to keep challenging myself to try the next thing and get to that place where I'm doing new stuff and being challenged.
And I think you and Jesse work so well together that there's actually like a built-in accountability. Mm-hmm. Like you can't really, like if I coast in my business, nobody will know, right? And actually I've been coasting, like I haven't intentionally grown my business for the past year, and it's grown naturally just because people want to use my service. But when you have a partner, you can't do that. Right. Yeah. So you and Jesse kind of keep each other accountable. And I think in a healthy partnership, it doesn't feel like handcuffs. It feels like you have a rowing partner.
Yeah. Oh, I would be completely screwed without Jesse, and I think he'd say the same about me.
He's great. And the thing I've noticed about you guys, because Jesse's the face of the brand, and you're kind of the brains behind the infrastructure. So you'd think that he would be the extrovert and you would be the introvert. But when I was with you guys in Korea, it was actually completely the opposite, where he's he's got this like secret that he's hiding. He's like mysterious almost. He just smiles he's like the quiet guy who smiles in the corner. And then you just want to party. You're just down, you want to be out till like 2 or 3 a.m. So I appreciate that about you guys. Justin, what about you? I mean, so do you guys feel like you've hit a glass ceiling, and have you pushed through, or how is that looking for you?
Yeah, I don't think we've hit any kind of ceiling. I think that you hit a ceiling based on whatever some constraint that you have structurally in your business is. And so throughout the last several years of growing the business, there's been ceilings. And then, we broke through them by doing something about it, like structuring the team different, hiring, additional marketing. The way I kind of have grown the business is just looking at what is the bottleneck. What's the next bottleneck that I need to tear down in order to expand our capacity. The last example maybe is project management and underwriting. So when we started doing a lot of subdivides, I think I have 35 simultaneous subdivides that range from small little splits to major developments on our books right now, either under contract, actively developing, or listed for sale right now. And that became a huge bottleneck because I was the one doing all that. I didn't have anybody else on my team that was underwriting. I didn't have like those type of projects. I didn't have anybody else who was hiring contractors and surveyors and calling county engineers and figuring out water systems and all that. And I was raising money and doing all kinds of stuff for those deals. So things just kept getting pushed and kicked, and like it was just getting really frustrating. So I hired a civil engineer to be a project manager and underwriter for those projects.
That's awesome.
That was the latest bottleneck, and that's really freed us up to handle more and more projects. So I don't have to say no when people come to me with opportunities and say, hey, do you want to partner on this deal? Do you want to work on this deal? Or when a property comes across our desk, we have capacity to underwrite it and give an offer out. And if we get under contract, boom, that goes on the project manager's desk, and it's their job to move that thing forward as quickly as possible. And so right now, the bottleneck is our sales. Like our time to list properties. Like from the moment we get under contract until like the property is listed, that's taking a long time because we have somewhere around 100 tracks in inventory, and every time we do a subdivide and we add another 10 tracks or 5 tracks or 20 tracks or whatever it is, that's another 10 tracks of inventory. You got to list those. We put together these marketing plans. We put together these email kind of campaigns for all the dispo side. And it just takes a long time. Realtors, relationships, it takes a long time. A lot of like back and forth. And so that's why we hired the Notion developer to build out the CRM with way more automations and way more communications between the acquisitions and sales side, and like financial dashboards and everything. So when I create a lead card on the front end of the software, all that information that acquisitions team sees is only on the acquisition side, but it's all still getting updated on the sales side. And the sales side sees what they need to see. And every time a change happens here and it kicks off a set of actions on the sales side, like getting all those integrations with our Google Drive, with Follow Up Boss, with like everything we're using, that's the next kind of bottleneck is how do we get things listed stuff quicker? And the other thing is one of our goals this year is to reduce the cost of capital down to 20% of profits, because right now it's a little bit higher than that. And the only way that I can see to do that is by finding cheaper money, which is, obviously you want to find cheaper money. You always want to look for cheaper money, but I still want to give good returns to people. So I'm not like aggressively seeking 10%, 15% money. I probably should, but I'm not. I want people who like are really motivated to keep investing with me. But the other way is just to do double closing and more double closes. But the sales process on a double close is completely different.
More complex.
It's way more complex. It's way more intense. It's like way more labor intensive.
More stressful.
And our current marketing process is we take title to everything. Not done a single double close in three and a half years of doing this business. So we don't have time to wait 30, 40 days before we, get a property ready to market. If we get it under contract, we need a title commitment immediately. We need drone work immediately. And then we need to list it like within a week to get the maximum exposure to try to sell this property. So another change, we're doing a national title company, going to a national title company instead of using kind of the mom and pop title companies and attorneys that we've used, because we've got 45, 50 different title companies we're using in all the different markets we're in. Some of them are great. Some of them give us title commitments back in a week or two. Others wait 2 months and like we're asking for it every day and they just like can't ever get it. So I just want to simplify that process. Anyway, so glass ceiling, I found that at least so far, there's always been a way to kind of break through it. But at some point you have to figure out, like, to your point, right? How much more effort on my part or my team's part is it going to take to do that? And so I think the larger size deals, the larger developments, maybe they take longer, but they produce a whole lot more income. That's kind of where I've put my attention. Like, I'm not working on a flip. Like, I don't, if the team gets a flip under contract, like I didn't pull the data. I didn't comp it. I didn't offer on it. I didn't even check the offer. I didn't make the buy decision, and I didn't have anything to do with selling it. There's a team behind it, and then automation's in place. So like a general flip, I might see it on a transaction coordination meeting and ask a question about it. Like, sales department owns the purchasing decision. The acquisitions department gets it under contract. They comp it, they value it. The sales department looks in the project management, look at like, what do we need to do to it? What's our broker price opinion? Like, how much do we think we can sell this for? They make the purchasing decision, whether or not we're going to buy it. And then they market and sell it. Like, I don't sign the contracts anymore.
For the most part, that system is completely automated. Have you ran a ratio of the percentage of mental bandwidth you think about that system versus how much income it spits out? God, and then after this, we'll get into the questions.
Maybe rephrase that question.
Like, let's say it spits out that machine, that the flipping machine that you're pretty much outside of. Let's say it's spitting out 300 a year net, right? But let's say you spend a third of your thought life thinking about it. Let's say your business thought life. But with your subdivides, let's say you're making $2 million a year, and those take up 2/3 of your thought life. Technically, that flipping machine, even though it looks great on paper, it's not as good of a bang for your buck.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say that, the subdivides make more money, but there's a couple things. They make objectively more money, but I also spend much more of my time thinking about them and working on them. Like the capital raise, the underwriting, working with banks, working with partners, like all that kind of stuff takes up a whole lot more of my time now. The flipping business takes up 10 to 15% maybe of my like mental bandwidth at this point, but it makes a little bit less, I would say, than the development. So it's still like probably a better use of my time, I guess you could say.
The flipping
the flip in terms of like dollars per hour of net income. Than the development business. But the development business has so much more opportunity, I think, longer term.
Yeah.
So like a lot of the work that I'm putting in right now, especially like the investor outreach, like putting together these investor decks, getting good investors that want more of these funds and more of these that want to write $500,000 checks for some of these projects. Like, the work is up front, and then when you have further on deals, it becomes a whole lot lower lift because you've also already got this kind of loyal base of investors that's interested in working with you because you've performed for them in the past. So right now it's a lot, but I think, again, that will move to be maybe less work in the future as we perform on some of these deals and give good returns to investors.
I love it. All right.
There we go.
Okay, let's start with you. Okay, how would you define happiness? Is it the same as contentment and fulfillment? And is it even something we should be pursuing?
Yeah. I tend to center around the word joy more than happiness. Happiness to me seems a little bit superficial, but joy is like kind of that contentment and like being in the moment of experiencing life and having just being there, being there for the here and now. I think that's that's the goal that I'm shooting for. But that being said, for me, that's really hard. I have a really tough time letting go of the business thoughts and of the planning and the
Like when you're with your kids, you mean?
visioning. Yeah. With my kids, with my wife, getting out of that mindset is super super difficult. But the few times that I've been able to do it, I do think I've experienced happiness, joy, whatever it is. Yeah, I want to figure out how to do more of that.
Yeah. I think of it as like being grateful in the moment, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like being grateful for whatever is happening at that exact moment. What do you think, Justin? How would you define happiness? Is it the same as contentment, fulfillment?
I think happiness is more of like a in the moment, I think, type feeling. If like I would say, oh, I'm happy, or I'm sad, or I'm mad, or whatever emotional state you might use to describe your current state. I think contentment is more of like a steady, like average, longer term type feeling, like where you stand, and then I think fulfillment is kind of more like when your life is going according to your goals, your personal plan. Feeling fulfilled is like feeling deeply satisfied with your life. I don't know how that's super different than contentment. Yeah, that's a really, really good question. And the second part of the question was like, is that what should we be shooting for essentially? Is that like a goal?
Yeah, like should we even be aiming for that? Or I guess the rebuttal would be like if you're achieving excellence, right? You're probably happy and you don't even know it.
Yeah. My wife and I have conversations about kind of maybe take a step back. I have a tendency to go all in or like not in. Now you kind of alluded to this earlier, and maybe this is like an entrepreneurial type mindset, but it's like I'm either fully engaged or I'm like very not engaged with whatever it is that I'm doing, researching, passionate about. And like perfect evidences in my life are I decided I want to run a marathon, and like boom, by like the next week I'm running 70 miles a week and like shooting for like a really good time on the marathon. Or I want to start this business. It's like boom, okay, I'm working a full-time job. I just had a second kid, but now I'm working 6 hours every night and going to bed at 1 a.m. for 6 months straight with no breaks because like I'm all in on this thing. And working out, right? Doing 75 hard and dropping 20 pounds and getting a six pack, like amazing. But then, you get hurt and you stop doing it. You miss a few workouts and then like no workouts for like 6 months. It's like hot or cold for me. I have a hard time kind of being okay at things. I'm either like really good at whatever I'm doing and I'm really focused on it, or I'm kind of not. And so I think for me, being content, being fulfilled looks like more balance. Like I don't.
Okay. Do you want that?
Yeah, no, I do. And I think my wife really wants it. And so I want some of the same things my wife wants. And I think there's that old adage, happy wife, happy life. But it's so true. It's really like a true thing. And, I think,
by the way, all three of us are married with multiple kids under the age of 10.
Yeah. Yep.
So Justin, you brought us into the second question. Does balance exist for people like us?
I think it can. And I think it's a matter of prioritization. Last summer, when we went to Europe, that was the most balanced that I have felt in a really long time. And it looked like a lot less work than I'm doing right now. I spent the whole day with my kids, and around 8 o'clock, they'd go to bed. That was about 1 p.m. Central Time here. And I'd start work, and I'd work probably till midnight or something, 5 hours. And it was deep work. It was focused work because I didn't have any other distractions. Like I didn't have my kids. I didn't have anything pulling me any which way. And so I got to be fully present during the day. Like there's no point in checking my email or phone because it's the middle of the night. Nobody's emailing me. Nobody's texting me. Like there's nothing going on in the middle of the night. And then when it came time for the kids to go to bed, it was like, boom, I could be focused on work. And it was really nice. But when you're not working as much and you've got a lot of things going on, things start to slip. You can't prioritize everything. So there's things that you deprioritize. And then when we came back, right now I'm in a big, what I would call a push season, where I'm working a lot more. And my wife feels it more because even when I'm not working, and Kevin, you said something to this effect, like I have a really hard time disengaging from all of the things. Like I have to read when I go to bed, because if I don't read something that can actually disengage my mind, like fiction, I'm just like reading fiction books at night, go to bed at 10:30, 11, whatever it is. I got to read something that isn't business, or that I can just totally like go into some other world in order to kind of stop thinking about all the things that are happening. And it's like the only way I've found to fall asleep. And I think like you can get to a balance where you're prioritizing everything the right amount. I think Also, though, when you have children that are young, and mine are 5, 3, and 1, like it's just hard. It's really hard to find any balance in this stage of life. And people that I've spoken to that have gone through this season, everyone always says you're in the hardest part. Like this is the hardest part. Like there's a time in the future where your kids won't have as many immediate needs. And there's also a time in the future where your kids aren't going to view you as the best person ever. And all they want to do is spend time with you now. In the future, that's not going to happen because they're going to have other social relationships, friends. They're going to be able to go out on their own and do stuff. They're not going to want to spend every waking moment with you. And you'll be able to maybe at that point in time, bring your life back to something that resembles balance. But for now, I'm okay with not being balanced because I'm prioritizing my kids and like the special moments I have when they're this young and work, which is going to set our family up for the goals that we've set for us. And I'm okay with other things slipping. I'm not going to be balanced right now. But I do think you can get there.
You think it's possible. It's just difficult in this season.
Yeah, it's very difficult. It's very difficult in this season.
I think Kevin and we just left the little kid season. Like my kids are 6 and 3 and they play really well together. Like they'll play all day long without fighting. Like we just finished the hard season. Kevin, are you in that season right now?
Yeah, I'm 7 and 4, and for the most part, my kids play pretty well together. We just spent a weekend in Chicago with some family friends, and they've got a couple kids, 2 kids that are a couple years older, same ratios. But the kids just hung out by themselves the whole weekend. And it was kind of crazy when we were.
They like brushed their own teeth and stuff.
Yeah, the four of us were just having dinner while the kids were like having a pillow fight upstairs. It was like, whoa, this is crazy. This is not normal.
So does balance exist in your world right now, Kevin?
I'm trying to figure out what that looks like as well. And I'm also trying to think about, while I still have the majority of my kids' attention, like you said, Justin, that's not going to be the case 3-4 years from now. My son's probably not going to want to spend so much time with me. I'm actually thinking about, do I dial down the business a little bit? Do I extract myself from the business a little bit? I'm at the point now where I don't have to be as involved in everything. And unless I wanted to really push and try to get us, another $1 million in revenue, like I could do that. But I could also just take a break for a little bit and try to hire a team. Well, we do have a great team, but try to offload some of that responsibility to my team and maybe spend a couple years like just doing as much with my kids as possible. But then again, I feel almost guilty about doing that as well, because is that going to make?
I'm doing that now, Kevin.
Yeah.
It feels very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like every single David Goggins influencer tells you should be like working 18 hours a day.
Yeah.
Like Ajay's a good voice. He always encourages me because his father has been gone for most of his childhood, and he's very open about that. Mm-hmm. And he always encourages me to prioritize time with my kids instead of business. Mm-hmm. So for the past year, both my businesses kind of hit glass ceilings, so I kind of purposely took my foot off the gas, just kind of let them coast for a bit. And I've had way more time with my kids, way more time with my wife, and things have, like, my relationship with my wife and kids has improved dramatically. But I have this like entrepreneurial guilt in the back of my mind that I'm not working hard enough, and that it's somehow wrong, right? Even like my assistant, she's working 40 hours a week. There's weeks I work 10 hours and I feel almost guilty, even though I'm the one who's paying her. I like feel guilty that she's working more than me. Like, what kind of twisted like society do we live in where like we have this kind of guilt, even though it's obviously very, very good for you to prioritize the right things?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going through that. All right. Second question, actually third question. I mean, we've kind of already touched on it, but is it a 2-dimensional spectrum between quality family time and focus on building your business? Like, is it give or take, right? Can you only be focused on your kids or focused on your business at one time? And then I also wrote, time can be expanded with delegation, meaning we could delegate most things to competent team members. But is our mental bandwidth and focus, is it finite? Is that limited? What do you guys think?
I think the answer is yes, it is limited. The illusion, I'll say, kind of a story I'll maybe tell is my wife has, I think just in general of women growing up in the 90s, early 2000s, like it's been this boss babe type kind of, I don't know, to like go to college, like get a really good career. And my wife did all that stuff, right? Went to college, got her chemical engineering degree, had a fantastic career, has had a great career so far. And then she's had 3 kids, and she's at the point where she's like, wow, I just want to be a mom. Like, I don't want to keep working. And so for the longest time, she's felt like I'm not a good employee because all I want to do is spend time with my kids. And I'm not a good mom because I'm not spending enough time with my kids, and I'm too worried about this report that's due or this PowerPoint that needs to get edited or whatever. And so she's like living in this constant state of like, not good enough here, not good enough there.
Yeah.
And I've always tried to tell her, like, look, you only have 24 hours in your day, and you've got some of it that you got to spend sleeping, and the rest of it you have to divvy up into your tasks. And so you can't give 100% to being a mom, and you can't give 100% to being an employee. You've got to figure out where that right balance is. And then you've got to accept that you're only going to be X good at this and only X good at that. And that's how it is. And I think it's the same with business and family time. It's hard. You can't spend true quality time with your family while you're super worried about all these things going on in your business, and vice versa. You can't be totally focused on your business and growth when you need to spend time with your family. So you've got to figure out what is that break, right? And I'm not going to claim that I'm good at it by any stretch. There are certainly things I think about doing, like when I leave this meeting, for example, like I can hear my kids. They're all home. They're playing downstairs. The baby's screaming. I can hear my daughter like laughing. As soon as we get off the call here, I'm going to go and hang out with them and have dinner. And I'm going to leave my phone right here on the desk. I'm not going to bring it down, because if I bring it down, there's multiple emails that have come across and texts and messages from my team and things they want me to input on, but like none of it's critical. But I know if I bring it down, I'm going to check it. I'm going to look at it. And my kids are going to look at me and they're going to say, Dad, Dad, Dad. And they're going to say my name like 10 times. I'm not even going to register it because I'm reading some email or sending some document or whatever it might be. And like those are little protections, at least I try to put on my time, where I can try to protect moments where I can actually focus on the kids. And I feel like that's about as good as I can get at this point.
And I think there's like an advantage that the old, 1960s office workplace has, where like you couldn't be reached at home, where when we work from home, like it's hard to have that separation.
Yeah.
Okay, so question 4, what do you do? We kind of talked about this. I don't think you guys are in this season, but what do you do when your cash cow business is no longer new and exciting? It can feel like a version of golden handcuffs. I think both of you guys feel pretty stimulated right now in your business. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I can talk a little bit about that because I've been in my business longer than I think you two have, at least in your current form, Drew. But I think there did come a time at maybe the 2-year, 3-year mark where it just felt like I was doing the same stuff I had been doing for 2 years. And for me, it was, we hired a business coach, and he helped kind of talk me through a lot of that. And a lot of it was trying to scale yourself out of whatever that stuff was that you didn't want to be doing. So hiring people to take over those roles. But yeah, there does come a point where you've scaled yourself out, but you're still in this business that is still the business you started years ago, and it's still essentially doing the same thing. And it can get monotonous. So yeah, your question was about what do you do when you get to that point? Is that?
Yeah, like I think most entrepreneurs are serial entrepreneurs at heart. We just like to start stuff, right? And it's this strange concept that happens when the business that clearly works and clearly makes money is no longer exciting, and you just want to start something new. But every single piece of wisdom out there says, don't stop doing what's working, right? And so you can kind of feel trapped where, like my first business hit scale within 2 years. I had it fully automated. I got really bored of it, and then I sold it like for super cheap. The buyer got a great deal just because I was bored and I wanted to move on. And in hindsight, I think that was the best decision, but I could have done it differently, where I actually kept the business and totally removed myself, because I was still probably in it 5 hours a week, but it was taking up like 40% of my mental bandwidth. Yeah, I think there's ways where we don't just abandon the ship the minute it gets boring, even if the ship is producing income, right? So I don't think you guys Justin, you constantly stay engaged. And then Kevin, you guys, I think you have good accountability where kind of keeps you from like abandoning ship so quickly?
You know, I have a thought on that. Just like the other piece of it, because if I look at my revenue or profit, net profit, whatever, and which vertical development or flipping it comes from, it's clear that development is where I need to be spending all my time. Like there's not.
That's where the future growth is.
Yeah, that's where all the future growth is. That's where the majority of the profits come from. So why do I keep the flipping business rolling when it doesn't produce as good of returns as the development business, and it still takes some time? And two reasons. One, that old adage, like you don't want to kill the golden goose or the thing that's continuing to produce for you. And for me, the other is, you know, part of the mission. Nora, a kid just came.
We could see your kids. You could put them on camera.
Here's my oldest, Nora. She wants candy.
Hey, Nora.
No, Jacob has to read.
Holy moly.
No, I need it.
So Justin will mute.
Hasn't come in.
I want to finish the shot, but one sec.
Mine are still sleeping because it's 7:20 a.m. here. Well, hey, let's move on to the next question, Kevin.
Okay, I'm back. Okay. I just want to finish that real quick.
I love it.
Dude, she blasted in here. There was
We know.
There was so well what you're doing right now.
There's something unfair about her little brother getting candy and her not getting an extra piece of candy. That was what that discussion was about. Not shutting the other piece, at least one of my own personal missions and the things that I've really like found a lot of value in is creating work for other people. And like I wouldn't do it for free. Like I wouldn't keep the flipping business rolling if it wasn't making money. But there's 23 people that who are directly working for the team. And then their families and the income that they earn from working in this business.
So that's like 100 people it's supporting.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not 100, but probably like 55 to 60 people that are all like raised up from the business. I think that's super valuable. Like I'm super passionate about the fact that like their families are not just eating, but like going to good schools, and especially my overseas employees. Like they're really making a good life for themselves, and I just can't imagine shutting that down while it's working. Like if there was something fundamentally flawed about it where it wasn't going to work and I was going to lose money, I would probably make that hard decision, right? But as long as it's producing income and not taking huge amounts of mental bandwidth to make it happen, like I feel like I owe it to my team to keep things rolling.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I love it. Okay, fifth question. So both of you are faith-based entrepreneurs. How do you reconcile the tension between God being in control, yet we also need to lace up our boots and put in the work? So the part that I struggle with is that Jesus controlled the weather on the boat, but the disciples, they were the ones in charge of bringing the sails and the oars. So like, what if they forgot to bring their stuff? Like, how much do you guys think that God like covers up or makes up for our own incompetency?
I think that that's a core tenet of Christianity, is that you have to carry your cross. That part of being in the walk with God is being able to do the work yourself, and that yes, he's going to give you grace no matter what, but you also have to put in the work on your end as well. And
so is it 100%, 100%, or it's like 50-50? You know, like is there a way to measure it?
On the one hand, grace will be 100% given, that you will always receive grace unconditionally, but to find your own path to God is going to require some input from you. So 100, I don't know.
I think you're saying 100.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting question. One of the first commandments in the Bible is, I mean, there's obviously be fruitful and multiply, but also God calls man to take dominion over the earth. And a lot of people use that verse to describe like why you should work, why work is good. And it is objectively good. I mean, God worked, right, for 6 days and then he rested. Like we're called to work and build and grow. There's also in Hebrews 2, the author talks about how Jesus is made perfect through suffering. And that is, life is not supposed to be a cakewalk where we just put everything in God's hand. And there's a story that, or maybe it was like a cartoon or like not a joke of sorts, but some sort of like, you know, cartoon where there's this guy, his house is flooding. Like he's in this house and like it's all flooding, and he goes up to his roof and a guy comes by on a boat and says, "Come, hop in. Like I'm here. I can help you. We can get to safety." And he says, "Oh, no. The Lord will provide. The Lord will save me." And then a helicopter comes and a helicopter is like, oh, your floodwaters are about to envelop your house. Like, you're going to drown. Like, take this ladder and I'll take you to safety. He says, no. God has got this. He's in control. I have faith. He's going to provide for me. And the floodwaters come and the guy dies. And he goes to the gates of heaven and he says, God, I was praying. You said you had faith. You were going to save me. And he's like, what more do you want? I sent you a boat. I sent you a helicopter and you didn't take any of them. Like, I don't know if there's any blasphemy in there, but I think there's a truth about it that you have to do something. Like, God calls us to work. God calls us to build. And yes, I 100% agree, through faith in Jesus Christ, like, grace will come. God gives grace. It's 100% God. There's no way we can come to God without 100% him. Like, nothing, no efforts on our part are going to bring us to him. So I don't know what the 100%, yeah. I'm kind of on that 100% type thing. The fruits of faith are obedience. I don't think, like, obviously I don't believe in a works-based gospel. Faith, you're saved by faith. Kind of a reformed, I'm certainly a reformed person, but like there's fruits from faith, and those fruits are obedience.
Yeah, I love it. I'm kind of on the same page as you guys. The area that, like, I wonder how involved God is in my business, because my business is highly dependent on cash forecasting and cash flow, because I keep my cash position very tight. I usually have no cushion. So a lot of times it's outside of my control how quickly these deals close. And obviously the quicker they close, the sooner I get the money, and the sooner I get the money, the more I can deploy it. I wonder, like, how involved God is in influencing those closings to go quicker. Like, if I pray about it, right? I just wonder. And I have no idea. There's days where I think, like, I'm just an idiot and really God's the one running my business. And then there's other days where I think, like, Drew's pretty smart. Like, my business is successful because I'm competent. But then you go back, like, who made you competent, right? Like, why do you even have a brain where you can think? And you were born into a certain family at a certain time period that put you in the exact spot you are now, right? So really, we can't take credit for anything. But I think about it sometimes. Okay, last question. I don't know if you guys sound pretty busy, so maybe you don't daydream about this. But when I think about starting a new business model, I have conflicting tension between two truths. So I daydream about new business models all the time, right? So I have conflicting tension between two truths. Truth number one is, based on my track record, I know deep down inside that I'm capable of being successful at almost anything, okay? So I know I'm capable. But also, truth number two, because I've started two successful businesses, I know deep down inside that starting a new business is a ton of work. It's a very long journey. And there's massive growing pains. And so it's almost like I know I can do it, but now I have a stronger deterrent to do it. Do you guys ever think about that?
Yeah. I've also started a few businesses, and it's always 10 times more work than you anticipate it being. And after doing this a few times, my appetite for starting another one is
very low.
Tempered a bit. I wouldn't say it's not there. If I had something come up, an idea or something that sparked my interest, I would definitely give it a shot again. But yeah, I might be a lot more careful about choosing what to do than I was in the past.
Yeah.
Same.
I agree. I'm like a incredible optimist. Like, it's true of any deal. Like, I'm always telling my wife, like, oh, I just got this deal under contract. Holy smokes. I'm going to make $1 million.
Like 10x.
Yeah. And like, oftentimes it happens, but it never happens on the time limit or the time frame that I think it's going to happen. And so, or it's either doesn't happen in the time frame, or it is less than I thought, or something like that. And now that I know that truth about myself, because I've been able to demonstrate time and time again that I love to overestimate what I think is going to happen, it does definitely put a little damper. I have to take a step back before, because I get tons of ideas for businesses and always want to do something new. And I try to fight that urge to start something new. And I think, do I have everything I'm doing in order to the point where it needs to be for me to actually give this new thing the amount of attention that it needs? And in almost all cases, the answer has been no. And so I've been like, okay, that's a great idea, but I just don't have the bandwidth for it. I think it's similar to you guys.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I've worked with people who are like serial starters, and they get the shiny ball syndrome. Like, they get really focused on one thing, and then 2 months later, they're like, okay, there's a new thing, and so I'm going to throw this other thing away. And a lot of times, like if you have a team behind you, that can be just so toxic. Like people will not want to follow you if you are if you're doing those sorts of things.
Because you're not predictable.
Yeah, you're not predictable. People don't know if you're going to do that for the next thing, so why are they going to invest their time and effort into following you? So now that we have this big team, like I feel the responsibility that I owe it to them to make sure that I'm putting in the effort to keep this train on the rails. And if I were to just jump off tomorrow onto some new thing, that would be kind of a dick move to them. So that's a big part of it.
Yeah, I feel really similarly to that.
See, right now I have one employee and her whole job is to be my EA. So I could like literally pivot at any moment.
That must be nice.
Well, I have the constant temptation. And if she's listening to this, I don't want to scare her because she's always concerned I'm just going to like cash out everything and like retire in South Korea. But I have the constant temptation. Like I could stop doing everything tomorrow, take this nest egg and like go do something else. But if the business works and most days I really enjoy it, why stop doing it, right?
What else are you going to do?
Exactly.
Sit on the beach all day? Like that's...
Yeah, that's so boring. Okay, well, let's wrap it up. Do you guys have a way that people can get a hold of you or any plug you want to make, any event you're running coming up?
For me, pebblerei.com. You can find me there. I'm not great with social media, but I'm on all of them. So yeah, Pebble's probably the best place to find me.
I love it.
For me, I've got the Ground Game podcast with my friend Clay, which is fun. Nice. So if anybody's like a land investor on that, we tried to talk a little higher level about like the business side of it, not necessarily like the nitty gritty details about marketing or I don't know, like how to do a deal or those kind of things, more on like growing the team and managing a team and like how to think about growing your business and setting goals and that type of stuff. It's been really fun. It's been a really fun experience so far. We got a lot of good feedback from it. So if you want to check that out, and then I have a website, justinpiché.com. It talks all about coaching, but just for the audience, I'm not doing a whole lot of coaching. I'm definitely not taking on new clients because it's just so much. It's a lot. I've got too much going on. But on that link, I have a Calendly, and I have an open calendar, which is probably a bad thing, but it's been fruitful so far. And I love meeting new people. I especially love talking about big deals and subdivides. And so if somebody has a big deal that they want a second opinion on, and especially if they want to partner, yeah, shoot me an email, book a call. I'd love to look at it. And if nothing else, it'll be 30 minutes of free advice.
One trick I learned, Justin, is I have an open calendar as well. And I put all my appointments to 15 minutes so that if I don't want to talk to the person, I have an excuse to jet pretty quick. But if I want to talk to them longer, because the 15 minutes after
you block so nobody else can book it.
Yeah, it's always open. So if I want to let it bleed longer, it makes them feel really special that they got 30 minutes out of me. And it's just a win for everyone. So it lets me bail if I want or let it go longer if I want as well.
If I ever get to a point where like people are abusing it or like I have too many on my calendar. Right now it's not that. It's like a couple of weeks people book with me and it's really fun. I get to meet a lot of people and look at a lot of deals that way. Helps keep you sharp too, just looking at other deals and areas that you're maybe not familiar with or whatever. But if I ever get to a point where it gets to be cumbersome, I'll either do what you said or I'll block the calendar so they can only book in a certain amount of time, or I'll put a little paywall behind it. You have to pay $1.50 or something like that. And so you got to really be committed and, pay $1 to meet with me. But right now it's open and free.
Yep. We kept having people wanting to meet with Kelly, my assistant, because she's kind of the gold standard of like a good EA. And it happened so much that I put a really small paywall and it disappeared overnight because people if it's not free, they don't want it.
Yeah.
So
there was a guy on X.
Problem.
His name's Robert Sterling. I don't know if you guys are on X, but he's
him.
Yep. So he had this like $20 consulting thing up for a long time, and so many people book with him. I just thought it was a really clever idea because, at least from his experience, I mean, that's like a crazy deal, for him to pay for you to pay $20 and get him to consult and just meet with you. And for him, it was just fun to meet a lot of people. But I think he got really busy and obviously took that away eventually.
Yep. Awesome. Well, I'd book with you for $1, Justin.
Oh, you have my cell, dude. You can just call me anytime.
It's true. All right, gentlemen. Well, thank you for being on. We're at an hour and 40 almost. It's a record for the podcast. So I'm excited. I would like to have each of you on individually in the future. And so stay tuned for future episodes with Kevin and Justin.
Sweet. It was fun. Thanks, Drew. Kevin, good to finally meet you and talk to you for a bit. This has been great.
Justin.
Thanks, guys. All right. That's it for today. I hope this conversation got you thinking and maybe even questioning a few things. And that's the point. This isn't about having all the answers. It's about figuring it out together. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who might need to hear it. And if you want to keep exploring these ideas, make sure to subscribe and follow me over at theothersideofenough.com. Let's keep the conversation going and see you next time.